Stay tuned. The
Are you ready?
series is going to
Wake up your magic. Self-realization is the space between you recognizing that you're connected to your higher self and that there is a connection that you think that is real. When you realize that there is a gap of energy, of emotions or thought forms, that's called self-realization, because that's that moment that comes together for you, that tunes into that pulse and taps into that inner wisdom of you recognizing that's my wisdom, or that's my intuition, or that's my truth, or you get goosebumps, or you get something. So I want to raise your awareness to realization and what creates these realizations within you. Oftentimes we think that the contrast or not getting what you want or not being happy is a constant. But in those moments of those contrasts of not being happy or being frustrated or realizing that you're off your path, in that moment right there, you have just closed the gap to you realizing that you are on another path, or that your path has just gone a little bit wider and you maybe want to bring it a little bit more to the center. That is realization. Ignoring those nudges and ignoring those emotional bursts, or that thought that takes you to realize that perspective or that piece of you that is outside of yourself or that is pulling you back in, that is realization. Why is this important? Is because a lot of people are getting misdirected or just a little bit distorted by the inner communication of themselves, by the way that you are thinking. Thoughts are just thoughts. You have to realize if that thought is not a happy thought, or if that thought is not a thought that makes you feel good, or if that thought is going way back into the past and it's coming back with a lot of baggage, then something inside of you, which is your intuition, your higher self, is making you realize, hey, here's an alert of realization that that is not your true path. That is not for you. That is not going to serve your higher good. That is not going to give you your greatest outcome. That is realization. And a lot of people go, oh, well, I live in the real world. And the real world is about struggle, and the real world is chaotic, and the real world is noisy, and the real world is that I have to work very hard for my money, and the real world. So if that is the real world that you're commanding and you're speaking into, and that real world is what you're seeing and what you're feeling and what you're feeding, then you're going to get pulled many times over into realizations, because your higher self is the real world within you that is nudging you to close the gap between those thoughts that are distorting you and distorting others, right? Or taking you into past triggers of emotional toxicity versus to emotional well-being. That's a realization. Being able to close those gaps it's like knowing how to breathe. It's like knowing how to eat. It's like realizing that sleep matters. It's like realizing that you get every day to start again and to optimize your inner well-being and your joy factor. All these could be categorized as realizations. But so often we get so caught up in the mundane pullings of what we feel is the real life, or what we feel needs to be real, that we often forget that realizations come from within ourselves. And this higher connection with the self that pulls and tugs at our hearts so that we are able to realize what is truly for us. Now, what might be for you might be absolutely off my path for me. So when you start realizing that one's path is not the same path for everybody, then you start realizing that your bandwidth for acceptance and your bandwidth for tolerance or your bandwidth for forgiveness has to be a bandwidth of capacity to enable those things there. Because realization comes in that you are the creator of your life. Self-realization gives you those innermost worth insights, which are called rays of light. So if you're closing your eyes and you're not able to see your past, then breathe in so that you're able to center yourself to realize that inner connection with yourself. You'll feel it. Sooner or later, that breath breathes into you and you realize that you are accompanied by a source and a light of energy that is favorable and it gives life to all of life. These little realizations are gifts. And I see too often those inner realizations being dismissed by the words are not even like there because they're not words, they are habits. People are so much in the routine of habits and running on chronological time and avoiding those inner self-realizations of what it means to be happy and what it means to be fulfilled by thoughts that are truly enriching you and empowering you to serve your inner well-being and higher good. Realizing that you are in charge of those thoughts is probably the greatest realization you can have. Because when you allow those thoughts to control you, it's like a runaway train. You'll feel that your emotions will run away with that too. And they'll go into the deepest libraries of your past, triggering emotional barriers or triggers or armors to protect you from things that you might have experienced in the past, be it good, bad, happy, sad, enriching, disenriching, empowering, disempowering. Whatever those words are, those words have a feeling. And when you realize you are the creator, and those creations come from within you, they come from your desires, then you realize that you're truly directing these thoughts to serve you, or you're allowing these thoughts that are not truly enriching your life, creating a dysfunctional service by creating more of the contrast so that you're able to probably get pulled to realize that that is not really what you want. And sometimes, unfortunately, we get triggered so quickly by more of what we don't want versus to what we do want. And when we measure that, we measure our angers are so loud and full of volume versus our desires that are like dimmed and very subtle. And then we wonder why we are not self-realizing our dreams at a snap of a finger. Realizing that whatever you ask for, you're going to receive. That is the way the universe works. And realizing that you truly are in charge of how you feel. When you're not in charge of those feelings, then it's just time to roll up your sleeves, get a pen, take a bath, take a deep breath in, go for a walk, still your mind, meditate, be still just a little bit, enough to pause so that you're able to realize your own pulse, your own connection to the real things that have value in your life. Realization is important when you're serving that inner space with your higher self and your higher good. Realizing that the past is always in effect because there is no amount of breath, of fire, of water, of air that can dissolve your past experiences. But there is the you that realizes that you're present. And when you realize that you are able to be present, then it's also you that realizes that you're no longer feeding that bridge to the past. That past is always going to be there. But until you have the self-realization that you've truly surrendered and that you've truly given yourself enough strength and power and willpower to progress, to proceed, and hopefully to one day ascend into another vibration where that memory is a favorable memory and is from a space of gratitude for its experience. The self-realization and the convolution of you constantly bringing what you felt was real from the past is always going to be so muddled in you realizing that you are the truest gift you can give yourself by completely being present and staying in tune to what feels good to you. There's so many ways that we can go in and talk about self-realization. Just looking at the self means that you've got to be looking inwards and not outwards, right? Realizing is something that is real for you. So until you feel that connection with yourself, there is no self-realization. You're always going to be in your head, or you're going to be in the past in those emotions, or you're going to be interacting with these thoughts, because that's what thoughts do. They are interacting with you. They're looking at poking you. They're looking at playing with you. They're looking at expanding you of what's already there. Nothing is happening to you. That's another realization. You are the one that's holding. You're the one that's expanding and expressing and sharing everything that you've experienced. But being able to bring these aspects of yourself into a self-realization and closing those gaps into the core of your heart and knowing that you're in charge and realizing that this is your life and this is the only life you've got as who you are today. And all of a sudden, that self-realization gives you that pulse. It gives you that ability to know and tap into that light and that favor. And all of a sudden, that realization expands its awareness of your greatness. And now you know that what you're realizing is just a little bit more of you. That you that matters in the bigger scheme of your own evolution. Not in the past libraries of whatever happened there that you weren't ready for. If it's something that happened that you're constantly having to write and burn or go for a walk with it or talk to yourself about it, you have to learn to be able to breathe it in enough to realize that you were the creator of it. As much as it brings a disgruntled aspect forward, nobody wants to be in charge of the blamer or the complainer, right? But realizing that this is a life filled with experiences that are opening up these windows of opportunity so that you are able to feel empowered, enriched, and knowing that you have more to contribute to yourself. Isn't that the greatest realization that you could breathe in today? So what a great word, realization. But realizing what? And that's the ... effect that only you are able to fill in. I realize that I am powerful. I realize that my truth matters. I realize that my warriorship is important to me. I realize that honoring myself is a vital ingredient. I realize that what I say constitutes a ripple effect of who I'm being. I realize that me listening to my emotions is a big deal. I realize that my intuition is the gift of gifts. When you start realizing that you're talking about these thought forms that are not brought in to support you, and you start speaking out aloud, and you're realizing that those are not your feelings, those are not your thoughts, that's a self-realization. That's an opportunity to close the doors, change lanes, wash your hands from it, surrender, take a walk, move faster, shift your vibration, dance, shout, do something, but change that energy so that you're able to bring yourself back into realizing, now this feels so much better to me. Because at the end of the day, those are the things that matter. When you feel better, you do better. And when you do better, you feel even better in doing what you're doing. And then that becomes inspiring. That is the thread that needs to be illuminated. When you realize that you are powerful and that you do have the power to influence you, then you already know that you're influencing those around you. So, self-realization, closing the gap between those contrasts and those feelings and those thoughts of self, tuning into the real aspect of realizing your true power, that breath that connects you and accelerates you and empowers you and leaves you feeling vital, important, worthy, a human in progress. You supporting yourself to realize your greatest potential. But not potential that's been left there. You realizing that you are that possibility in action. But it has to be you that has to breathe it in and hold that vibration and then share it. With who? With you first. So today, embrace that word, bring it back into self, and just get a feel for it. See how it fits you. See what you realize today that could absolutely shift you into a whole different realm of possibilities and evolution, and just bring that wind of grace and happiness into your life. Okay? Self-realization.
So that you can manifest your dreams in this lifetime experience. We are empathic, we are sensitive, we are intuitive, we are psychically attuned to this energy world that is awakening who we are. You're so much more than who you think you are, and remind yourself that your higher self absolutely knows what you want. You are the creator of your future. Holds for you what you have put into your future, what you're thinking, but most of all, what you're feeling. That is what is coming to you. That is how the universe talks. You are the creator of your life. We all are. Are you ready?